And it is important to be challenging those biases so that you are connecting with students and acknowledging their cultures in your classroom. Next, I examined the innatist theory and the theory of communicative competence. And these are theories about language acquisition. The innatist theory basically emphasizes that students bring prior knowledge to the classroom, and teachers need to draw on that prior knowledge and allow them to be making connections to their prior knowledge and the content, and not by emphasizing grammar or those other language structures at first. And the theory of communicative competence states that learners gain language proficiency by interacting and communicating with one another. And again, this requires more than just the use of grammar or understanding grammar. So the opportunity for teachers here is that they need to be allowing students to not only draw on their prior knowledge, but also interact with others, similar to collectivism. Neurology plays a big part in the learning environment for ELLs. Basically, humans have a reptilian brain located right here. It's the original part of your brain, and it does control automatic functions of the body, and it also signals danger. And this is important for teachers to understand because if ELLs are not feeling safe in the classroom, then it is harder for them to learn. Danger would not necessarily be a physical danger, but an emotional danger. This also connects to Krashen's theory of the affective filter. Basically, Krashen says that learning occurs when there is no barrier, environmental, social, or attitudinal, affecting the intake of new information. And so teachers need to make sure it's a safe place to ask for help. It's a safe place to make mistakes. It's a safe place to interact with others, and that learning is safe, so students do not have that reptilian brain signal danger. Additionally, dopamine can be released by the brain. It is a chemical that responds to pleasurable experiences. And so students will actually learn better if the learning environment is positive and relationships with content and peers are positive as well. Next, I examined the idea of language input and output. And so there's many ways to receive and give language. Input is taking in language, so when you're listening or you're reading. And then output is when you're putting out language, so you're speaking and you're writing. And this is super important because teachers need to be providing opportunities to use language in all of these ways. However, some students have a silent period where they're not producing much output and they're just taking in the input. This is normal and natural for language acquisition, and teachers need to be aware of this and make the classroom a safe space for students in their silent period. And lastly, teachers need to be aware that there are strategies to scaffold and shelter language instruction. And these are best practices based on research, and they're common practices for English language learners that teachers should be using in the classroom in all content areas. Basically, teachers need to be connecting to students' background knowledge, using graphic organizers to organize information, presenting visuals and realia that connect to the content, trying to use the student's first language and culture as much as possible. Teachers can read aloud. Teachers should be using gestures. Teachers should be clarifying instruction and learning tasks for students, articulating content and language objectives, allowing interaction and talking routines for students to scaffold with their peers, and then using sentence frames to help students articulate that academic language and content. So in order to research the research questions and apply the knowledge learned in the literature review, 3 different sources of data will be collected. The first source is an interview about teacher perceptions of the barriers that ELLs face in the classroom. The second source is a survey about current instructional practices for ELLs and creating a safe classroom culture for the ELLs. And the last source is standardized test data from a test called MAPS. It stands for Measures of Academic Progress. MAPS tests the content areas of literacy and math. And then the data from the MAPS assessment will be used as correlation